Sorry, we'll do it again. Good morning, all. So you got 2 good mornings and 2 welcomes. Welcome to the officials of the Attorney General's Office and the Ministry of Legal Affairs, the Police Complaints Authority, and the Auditor General's Department. My name is David Tanku, and I'm the chairman of the Public Accounts Committee that will be walking you through today's query. The Public Accounts Committee has a mandate to consider and report to the House on A, appropriation accounts of monies expended out of the sums granted by Parliament to meet the public expenditure of Trinidad and Tobago, and B, such other accounts as may be referred to the committee by the House of Representatives or as authorized or required to be considered by the committee under any other enactment, and C, the report of the Auditor General on any such accounts. Please note that the purpose of today's meeting is for the Public Accounts Committee to conduct an examination of the reports of the Auditor General on the financial statements of the Police Complaints Authority for the financial years 2015 to 2021, to assess whether the expenditure conforms to the authority which governs it, to examine the challenges being faced and possible solutions to these challenges, and to assist the Police Complaints Authority in achieving the efficient delivery of services while ensuring that expenditure is embarked upon in accordance with parliamentary approval. Based on the issues identified, the representatives of the Police Complaints Authority, the Office of the Attorney General and Ministry of Legal Affairs, and the Auditor General's Department have been invited to today's public hearing. Please note that this meeting is being broadcast live on the Parliament's Channel 11, on Radio 105.5 FM, and the Parliament's YouTube channel, ParlView. Viewers and listeners are invited to send their comments related to today's inquiry via email parl101@ttparliament.org, facebook.com/ttparliament, and Twitter @ttparliament. I will now ask members of today's committee, the Public Accounts Committee present with us here today, to introduce themselves, beginning with my colleague on my right.
Jillian John, Vice Chairman of the Committee.
Good morning, Dr. Emery Brown, Member.
Good morning, Paula Gopi-Schoon, Member.
Thank you, colleagues. I would now invite officials present here today to also introduce themselves, beginning with the Police Complaints Authority.
Good morning. My name is David West. I am the Director of the Police Complaints Authority.
My name is Michelle Solomon Baksh. I'm the Deputy Director of the Police Complaints Authority.
Good morning. My name is Trisha James. I'm the Manager of Finance and Accounts of the Police Complaints Authority.
Good morning. My name is Chrisley Rajpal Singh, Manager, Human Resources of the Police Complaints Authority.
Good morning. My name is Ricky Nandlal, the Manager of Information Technology at the Police Complaints Authority.
Thank you very much. May I invite officials from the Ministry of the Attorney General and Legal Affairs to introduce themselves. Sorry.
Good morning. I'm Shea Augustine Hamilton, Deputy Permanent Secretary, Acting of the Office of Attorney General and Ministry of Legal Affairs.
Thank you very much. May I invite members representing the Auditor General's Department to introduce themselves.
Good morning. Gary Peters, Assistant Auditor General.
Good morning. Ms. Anisha Bash, Audit Director.
Thank you. In keeping with protocol, may I now invite the Auditor General to make a brief opening statement, or representative, sir.
Chairman, committee members, representatives from the Police Complaints Authority, and the viewing public, a very pleasant good day to you. Section 18.2 of the Police Complaints Authority Act states the accounts of the authority shall be audited annually by the Auditor General or by an auditor authorized by him for such purpose. Having said that, firstly, the audits for the years 2015 and 16 were done by a private auditor, and 17 to 21 were done by us. And secondly, our new Auditor General, Ms. Jaiwanti Ramdas, was appointed just last Wednesday. And finally, I would just like to point out that the PCA is usually receptive to our recommendations during and at the end of the audit. And we are quite happy for that. Thank you.
Thank you, Assistant Auditor General. May I now invite Acting Deputy Permanent Secretary from the Ministry of Attorney General and Legal Affairs to make a brief opening statement.
Good morning, Chair, members of the committee, members of the PCA, members of the public. As Acting Deputy Permanent Secretary of the Attorney General and Ministry of Legal Affairs, it's my esteemed honor to address this committee today. The PCA is an independent corporate body constituted in accordance with the Police Complaint Authority Act, Chapter 1505 of the laws of Trinidad and Tobago. The PCA fundings consist of monies appropriated to it by Parliament, and its accounts are audited annually by the Auditor General or an auditor authorized by him for such purpose. The Office of the Attorney General and Ministry of Legal Affairs is responsible for disbursing monthly subventions to the PCA to efficiently carry out its functions. The total sum dispensed for the period 2015 to 2021 to the PCA is $128,160,340. The PCA is required to submit annual reports and audited statements to the Attorney General and Minister of Legal Affairs. As the Minister who is responsible for the PCA is assigned, the Attorney General subsequently causes the annual report and audited statement to be laid in Parliament. Given that the PCA is an independent body, it is not subjected to directions, control, or any other person in the performance of its statutory function or exercise its statutory powers. Chair, I look forward to your deliberation and recommendation of this committee today. I thank you.
Thank you very much, ma'am. May I now invite the Director of the Police Complaints Authority to make a brief opening statement.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, members of the Public Accounts Committee, members of the Secretariat and staff, representatives of the Ministry of the Attorney General and Legal Affairs, representatives of the Auditor General's Department, representatives of other agencies, and members of the viewing public. On behalf of the authority, I would thank you for this opportunity to participate in these proceedings concerning the audited financial statements of the Police Complaints Authority, hereinafter referred to as the PCA, for the years 2015 to 2021, all of which have been submitted to the Office of the Auditor General without delay. The PCA is a body corporate governed by the Police Complaints Authority Act, Chapter 1505 as amended. The mandate of which is to investigate criminal offences involving police officers, serious police misconduct, and matters related thereto. The PCA has been operational since December 29, 2010, making this our 13th year in existence. I am pleased to report that during my first term of office, the then authority implemented its second strategic plan for the period 2016 to 2018, resulting in improvements in its operational efficiency and accessibility. Since the plan's rollout, the PCA has achieved key strategic goals, including but not limited to greater accessibility to complainants by increasing the methods through which reports can be lodged, including a mobile application referred to as the PCA app and our progressive website. Enhancing legislative influence through the passage of amendments in 2020 and 2021. Strengthening investigations through the development of standard operating procedures and policies in support of high-quality, timely investigative output. These accomplishments enhance the fulfillment of our statutory mandate and are consistent with the organizational vision of being the reliable authority leading the way to justice. As the PCA has pivoted into a different phase, our operations will be further streamlined after the implementation of our new strategic plan due to be rolled out in 2024. A meeting was held as recent as yesterday with the new service provider. In the interest of transparency and accountability, our team welcomes this opportunity to provide further clarity on our earlier submissions. We remain resolute in our commitment to effectively and efficiently execute our statutory mandate. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you very much, Mr. West. The way we will proceed is that I will engage you and my colleagues from the Auditor General's department with some questions. Thereafter, I will open the floor to my other colleagues who will also ask questions based on the documentations and the submissions that you would have provided to us. Director, you advised that I think the ministry representative also indicated that a substantial amount of funding is provided by the state to the Police Complaints Authority for the execution of its job. I think she had said 138 million, is that correct? 138, correct, for the period 2015 to 21? With 2024 and 2023, we were looking at 20 million thereabouts per annum. That's a substantial amount of money, generally. The question I have to ask, though, is this, in your opinion, Director, sufficient for the needs of the entity, Police Complaints Authority, especially since I note that in your 2016 to 2018 strat plan, one of the strategic objectives that you identified was to increase budgetary allocation, 2016 to 2018. There's been a minimal increase in my view. But is that, the question then goes back to whether or not your financial allocation is sufficient in your view to meet the needs of the Police Complaints Authority to do its own job?
Thank you for that question, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, the monies appropriated by Parliament thus far have been adequate to meet the everyday expenditure of the PCA. However, with the increase in complaints, and I can go into that in more detail, and also too with the increase in, we are trying to move to a more technologically advanced institution. We require a lot more, we require some funding to provide for those enhancements. Also too, the mobile app that we introduced, I think in 2018, needs to be upgraded, and all our electronic equipment needs upgrading. So that would require further funding. Also too, we have vehicles that are about, on average, about 10 to 15 years old that require maintenance. So we require new vehicles. Now, where we go, you could imagine, we traverse both Trinidad and Tobago, north, south, east, and west. And we require heavy-duty vehicles. I would say, for example, the smaller sized, medium-sized utility vehicles, SUVs, cannot quite go up into the mountainous areas that we sometimes go to. So therefore, we need the bigger Prados, and the larger size SUVs. So we would need funding, and those are about $1 million, and that is a lot of money. If I could just take you through, from 2014 to 2015, we had, when I first came in, we had 352 complaints. However, by 2021, 2022, that had increased to 569 complaints. So we've seen over the period a 66.7% increase in complaints. And further, initial reports, that is when complainants first come into the PCA and make a report, but it doesn't quite meet the standard of our serious police misconduct, our legal remit. That has increased from 552 to 1,028, which is an 86% increase. Now, of course, it takes manpower to sift through those complaints because we need to make sure that we are operating within our statutory remit. So that includes also to further more employees, because it's very time-consuming when we get a complainant comes in to go through the whole complaint, and we do not want to go through the whole complaint process, so we cut it out where we can. we have what we call an administrative management system called AIM in the PCA, that how when we get complaints into the department, they are uploaded to this system, and that system is then, the attorneys and the legal officers can then access it. That system has been there since I have been director in 2014, and that also needs upgrading. So while we have enough money to operate generally on a day-to-day basis, we will require more funding to upgrade and be more efficient and effective in going forward, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Director. So, several things. You indicated that there has been an increased number of complaints from members of the public and other stakeholders to the Police Complaints Authority. You indicated a substantial increase in complaints. Given that the government has just announced the intention of increasing the number of police officers, and given that we have other organizations now involved in policing effort, do you foresee an even greater need to increase funding support to the Police Complaints Authority?
Mr. Chairman, yes, that will be consistent with the PCA having to supervise more law enforcement officers.
Directors, can you advise what efforts have been made, therefore, to relay those concerns? Because I will come to the Ministry of the Attorney General in a few minutes. Can you advise what efforts have been made to relay those concerns in need for additional supporting personnel, equipment, etc.? Because while you're saying, on the one hand, that you have adequate funding to meet your needs, you're also saying that we have a substantial deficit, for lack of a better word. But we have concerns. We have 10-year-old equipment that are being used to pursue investigations and so on. So you are operating, I don't want to put words in your mouth, but you're operating with funding, but you still have these deficiencies that need to be improved on. So I know you are saying that it's adequate. My question then revolves whether or not it is in fact adequate, or you're making do. And if you are making do, that's great. But then what happens now? What efforts have you been making? What efforts are you making now to treat with what is going to be an increased clientele, and therefore likely to have increased complaints coming to you even above and beyond what exists now?
Mr. Chairman, through prudent expenditure by the PCA, we have been able to, I would say, keep some money in reserve from the past budgets. So therefore, we have a small war chest. Now, what happens is that during the year, if it is that we find that we need more money for operations and expenses, we can approach the Ministry of Finance for an increased allocation. Now, we do that. We have not done that regularly, but that is an opportunity available to us. So when our budget comes out, we can then take into account the increase in the police service and on our expenditure. So therefore, that is where the money is. We are covered to run the operations, of the PCA.
Director, that's a very curious direction, that you have additional resources that you can put aside for, I assume, for emergencies, etc., and still have these other challenges with regards to the vehicles, etc. It's a little bit of a misnomer, for lack of a better word.
Not quite, because we have a systematic maintenance program in place. So although I'm saying that the vehicles are old, and I'm not saying they're breaking down, they're not, they're far from. So because we have put systems and policies in place, we have been able to manage our finances appropriately. That is why I could say that the Auditor General's Department has never had an issue with the PCA in terms of finances or expenditure.
Well, clearly I'm trying to get you into in a particular direction. In terms of, let's go the other way. So I'm looking at your human resource situation. I note that you have had an increase in employees from 50 in 2015 to 62 in 2021. But you also indicated in your strat plan a desire to increase to reduce the number of vacancies which exist at the staff complement of the Police Complaints Authority. Can you advise, based on the optimum, what is your level of vacancies that exist today at the Police Complaints Authority, and what positions they may currently occupy? Well, what positions those vacancies are in?
Sure. Mr. Chairman, may I pass that question to my deputy to answer, please?
Ma'am?
Chairman, with your leave, the number of vacancies, I'm going to clarify that, or ask our HR manager to clarify the number. On our last check, that number was 11 vacancies. Those vacancies lie in the department, the investigations department, and the legal department. And with your leave, Mr. Chairman, if I'm just allowed to elaborate on one small point, and just to piggyback very slightly, COVID has been a great lesson to our organization that was deemed essential. Coming out of COVID, the lessons that we learned helped us to manage the resources that we have, and we are grateful for the increase that we got. Coming out of COVID and during our tenure, I want to say decade-long tenure, we have learned how to use technology in our investigative processes to our advantage. It improves communication. It improves the way we record evidence, hard evidence, and it changed the direction in which we pursued our investigations. Our investigations are science-driven. There's a great level, and I don't want to sound boastful, but there's a great level of housework that takes place behind the scenes when it comes to how we manage the affairs. So when our director refers to the war chest, there's a value attached to that. It's a nominal amount that we keep in case of an emergency for budgetary, and our accounts manager can elaborate on that. But subject to correction by my HR manager, we're looking at 11 vacancies, and that those would lie in the investigations, legal, and some in administrative. May I respectfully pass to her so that she can clarify that for the record?
Sure, thank you.
Good morning. Thank you, Chairman, for the question. I would like to confirm that, yes, there are 11 vacancies that exist currently, which represents 15% of our total staff. And I'm also confirming, as the deputy indicated, those vacancies lie in the investigations and legal department, as well as our operations department. Thank you.
Ma'am, may I ask you then, what efforts have been made, given that these are critical positions, that these posts are critical for the efficient operations of the Police Complaints Authority, they are investigative and legal. What efforts have been made? Well, two questions then. How long have these vacancies existed, and what efforts have been made to fill those vacancies in the shortest possible time?
Good morning. Thank you again for your question. These vacancies, in terms of the length that some of them have existed, could span a few years. Whether those are deemed urgent or not will be determined by the authority. How vacancies are filled at the PCA, we have a recruitment and selection policy, which outlines the structure in which the recruitment takes place. So that would begin with the posting of advertisements, carrying out competency-based assessments, and then competency-based interviews. So that is the structure in which we perform recruitment for all positions. Positions that are deemed urgent to fill, we may consider other options to lessen the time to fill those positions by using internal promotions or fast-tracking certain activities within the recruitment and selection approach. Thank you.
Thank you very much for that. I note in the strat plan, there was in the 2016 to 2018 strategic plan, my notes refer to page 28, there was an intention to review the organizational structure and the staff complement. Can you advise whether that has been done and whether that has had any impact on the numbers of vacancies that you would have identified prior?
Mr. Chairman, thank you for that question. And that is exactly why, Mr. Chairman, we are now plan to roll out our new strat plan in 2014, in the first quarter of 2014. So 2024, sorry. So we can, we can make sure we have an efficient running institution, and that will also help us gauge whether or not the vacancies that are there need to be filled, how soon they need to be filled.
All right, so just a couple more before I turn over to my colleagues. Again, I want to stay with the employees for now, and we'll go back to funding during the rest of the conversation, at another limb of the conversation. In terms of the employees, so if I'm to merge what we've heard so far, your staff complement is in the ballpark of about 73, 74 individuals. If you were filter capacity, we're looking at about 73 or 74 persons, given that we had 62 as of 2021 and we have 11 vacancies, correct? How many of those staff positions are contract and how many of those are in established public service posts, if any?
Mr. Chairman, all employees are on contract by the PCA. I think they're on a three-year contract to be renewed.
So at this point, you have 11 vacancies. So as at today, your optimum staffing would be in the vicinity of a total of 74. You're looking at your new strat plan. When you roll out your new strat plan, then that will determine whether you need to fortify other departments, etc. Is that correct?
That is correct, Mr. Chairman.
Just out of curiosity, so we had a strat plan up to 2018, and we are now having a strat plan from 2024. Was there no strat plan between 2018 and 2024?
Well, Mr. Chairman, there was the intervention of COVID, unfortunately, so that could not have been done, and we were just busy with, getting, getting rid of the backlog that we had before and introducing new technologies to come into place with our new app, our progressive website. So that is what we were focused on. But now that things have settled down, we have as you've heard before, in plan to have our early strat plan in 2024.
My last question before I turn over to my colleagues. Given that we have 11 persons short in critical positions, do you think that those vacancies would have affected the efficiency and effectiveness, as you described in your opening statement, of the Police Complaints Authority?
Mr. Chairman, I don't know if you're getting the feeling, but the PCA is run very efficiently. And those 11 vacancies, if they were needed to be filled, would have been filled. What we have done is we have devised plans to if you want to, I guess I won't say take up the slack, but we have devised methods to work around that, and we are operating at a very efficient space right now, Mr. Chairman.
I don't want to belabor the point, so I'll turn over to my colleagues who will ask you other issues. I will come back subsequently. Member John?
Thank you very much, Mr. Director. I'm happy to hear you say the organization is working at optimum. I just want to ask, do you believe that the work done by the PCA is an important partner in the fight against crime?
Madam Vice Chairman, definitely it is.
Okay, and in so doing, basically, your work is really to look at police misconduct. I noted, and you can correct me, that a citizen will have to go to a police station to register that complaint?
No, definitely not.
Where do they go?
There are various methods by which a civilian or a police officer can register a complaint. As I said before, they can come into our office at level 24, Tower D at the Hyatt. We have an office in Tobago, in Backland Street, Tobago. They can go to Tobago. They also have the mobile app, which can be downloaded on both Android and Apple phone. They can email us a complaint at www.pca.org.tt, or they can email, or they can write their complaint to the PCA in Trinidad or in Tobago.
So going to the police station is not one of the methods?
No. If they go to a police station, the police station will advise them that they could come to the, they should make the complaint to the PCA.
No, I'm just asking, but because I saw it, I was looking at your website, I was seeing it online. So I'm just asking, if it's online, I mean, somebody like me wanting to make a report, I'll go to see where do I make this report, and that is what I'm seeing. So I'm just asking, is it that people are also advised to go to a police station?
Madam Vice Chairman, sometimes the police station will give them a PCA form, which we had a long time ago, that they can fill out and then send it to the PCA. So there can be a form they can fill out.
Okay, then, well, can you then probably update your website? Because I think even more than politicians, people are distrustful of the police. Yeah, you understand? I don't see them going to a police station to make a report as being a viable option, right, given what is happening. Now,
that will be looked at, Madam Chair. I take your guidance on that. Thank you.
Thank you. With respect to your complaints and the way you all manage them, I was looking at maybe a website again, and there was something about 2021 or 22 or thereabouts, if I can find it again, where, okay, right, I think it would have been about 121 complaints. And of that, I mean, I don't expect you have, probably, hopefully you have it at the top of your head. I hope you're alive. But what I'm saying is, you had 104, no further action. 12 was sent to the commissioner only, 4 to the DPP only, 1 to the commissioner and DPP. But that was between the period of October 1st, 2020 to September 30th, 2021. Given the numbers you have quoted in terms of the numerous amount of complaints, how are you lagging? How are you managing with these complaints in terms of the rate of turnover and the resolution? My question wasn't clear.
Okay, so...
Do you have a big backlog? That's what I'm asking.
No, we don't have a big backlog. Madam Chair, what I have in mind from my notes, and you can correct me, but I have from 2021 to 2022, is that the period you're looking at?
No, I'm looking at 2020 to 2021, and it's on your website.
Right, so I think I have 45 matters we referred to the Commissioner of Police. Is that 19?
No. I'm looking at the investigation completed for the period October 1st, 2020 to September 30th, 2021.
Right.
That's the period. So I saw 104, no further action. So, I mean, these complaints, I expect, it's a kind of rolling target. I don't know if they're resolved real time. Correct. So the question is, it's really how many do you have in your database as backlog or as unresolved?
I'll pass that to the Deputy Director.
Mr. Chairman, through you and Madam Vice Chairman, the exact figure that you're looking for that reporting period, may I respectfully be allowed to provide that exact figure on the backlog to you with your leave? I don't want to misquote the figure, but in response to your question as to whether there is a rolling over, when we get these complaints, and these complaints usually are between 400 to 500 complaints per year, they are managed by 6 teams under the supervision of the director and myself. We case manage those files. So the final figures that you've referred to for the 2020 to 2021 period reflect a series of case management sessions over a period of time. Matters that expire after 6 months, those have a statutory limitation. Those are bowled out, if you forgive me for using the expression. We deal with those matters in terms of turnover. Those are matters that expire, criminal matters that must be brought before a court of law before 6 months. those matters have to be dealt with by the authority and by the teams within a short space of time. The matters that take longer, so I'm talking about the matters that are outside of the figures that you quoted and that are rolled over, those are the complicated, more complex criminal matters such as murders, manslaughters, misbehavior in public office, perverting the course of justice, corruption cases by police officers. Those historically take long, not because of our staffing issues. We have to rely on information, science, and other bits of information, evidence from third parties. So sorry, ma'am.
You finished?
So that specific figure for that period, I respectfully ask for the opportunity to confirm that figure with you.
Okay, and Chairman, it's just only two more, and then I think. So you can't then give us an average time frame to complete these investigations, because remember, people's lives are hanging in the balance whilst you are doing your job, I'm sure, expeditiously. Mm-hmm.
So for those that expire within 6 months, they have to be completed within the period of 6 months. Mm-hmm. If they go over, the matter doesn't die, because we also look at disciplinary offenses, and we usually deal with those matters within a 2-year period. The complex matters, which are indictable, those take longer, sometimes a year, sometimes longer than a year, but not because of in-house operations. It's because we're waiting on material from the Forensic Science Center, from the TTPS, I'm talking about the science-driven data that we rely on. And those sorry.
You go ahead, sorry.
And those cause the investigations to take a longer period of time. In some cases, those cases are drawn out because we are waiting from the TTPS certain documents, certain reports, certain plans, and those are that is information that is in the hands of the TTPS.
Okay, but I'm sure you understand the fierce urgency of now with people facing pressure with these matters. So I'm a little disappointed in that. Now, the other question that probably arises from that, I saw again on your website that police officers don't investigate these matters. I don't know if that is true. Your matters. Can you confirm that? That police officers, like if something is sent to you, a matter is sent to you, is it investigated by a police officer, or your investigators are not police officers? I think that is what I saw.
The legislation mandates that no police officers to work at the Police Complaints Authority. We are a civilian oversight body, so we can't have a police officer engaged in our exercises at all. When we send our matter to the DPP in turn can issue further instructions to the TTPS to complete further actions that are outside of our operations.
Okay. And the last question for now. With respect to your response to the lack of the strategic plan, the one that we have under consideration, I think it expired in, is it 2018, and we're in 2023. Now, really and truly, the strategic plan serves as a guide to say, well, you put your targets and then you measure in, a simple way. And basically, again, will put a lot of importance on your work in terms of trying to keep our police officers on the straight and narrow, because during this time we depend on them so much to maintain the peace and whatever else we need. I am very concerned. Yes, I heard the director said that it will be ready by the first quarter of 24. That what are you using now in terms of measuring your own performance, as it were now? Given that you haven't set any targets formally over the last years, 4 years or so.
As you could imagine, the most important, one of the main avenues for the PCO important aspects is the investigations department. So what we do, as the Deputy Director said, is we have case management every so often, or depends on the director. I have a team, and the Deputy Director has a team. And what we do is we case manage our investigation. So we set deadlines for our investigators to come back and provide the evidence. So every month or 2 months, we have an update on the progress of the investigation. So that is how we how we keep our deadlines and how we keep our targets. But just one question, just one addition. You talked about the delay. The complainants themselves also too cause the delay. Sometimes they go away and they don't tell us. They change their phone. They have so many different phones and they don't tell us. They change their address and they don't tell us. So many times we are trying to find them to take a statement or to get further information, and because they have not gotten back to us, we have kept the complaint ongoing until we can issue a closure letter that you're not interested anymore.
Because, Director, people are afraid. People are being slaughtered everywhere, and you are part of their lifeline. To be quite honest, because if they have been brutalized by a police officer or any kind of misconduct, they see you as their beacon of hope. You understand? So I think what has to happen, you cannot now find yourself as part of the apparatus that they distrust. I don't think as a citizen I hear enough of the PCA, or I see enough of the PCA in terms of what is your role, how can you help the rank and file out there, and maybe that is something you will have to look at as you go forward, to be quite honest, because in this time where people are so vicious, we are vicious to each other, I think your role has become even more important. So what you're saying to the people, they go away, they change their phone, because they're frightened, by and large, because they're afraid that somebody will find out that they have made a report against them. I think that's logical. Right? So maybe that is something you have to look at, and we can't just take this straight line, very, what do you call it? I don't want to say professional, but by the book, pedantic approach, to it is, it's human lives you are interacting with, notwithstanding, and I think people are seeing you, or can see you as a very important intervention point in our fight against crime. Thank you.
I understand that, Madam Vice Chairman, but we have had in the past outreach programs. We've done over 24 outreach programs in Trinidad and Tobago. We've gone to places like Barrackpore. We've gone in the Port of Spain area and San Fernando area. So we have had outreaches. We also have a partnership with the Living Waters, where we tackle the migrant population, because we see that the migrants are being interfaced with the police in a negative fashion also too. So we're looking at that also too. We've recently partnered with the Eastern Lawyers Association, and we've held outreach in Sandy Grande Arima area. So we understand that, and I take your point that we are not as visible as we are out there, but we will, in our strat plan, I'm sure, have that as a major concern. We want to get out there more. We want people to know about the PCA, what we do and what work we do, and we want to show them the good work and what we have been doing. Thank you, Madam Chair.
May I turn over to Member Gopiskun?
Thank you very much, and I take the floor just as a follow-up because the member spoke about the number of complaints between 2020 and 2021 being in the vicinity of 500 and above complaints, but if I do recall in your opening statement, you gave a 2021-2022 figure of over 1,000 complaints. And of course, you spoke about the fact that you now have various methods where the public can in fact complain. So I see that it is trending far in a positive direction in terms of the number of complaints received, because that's one of your primary roles and goals. And so I want to find about the trend of complaints. We are now at the end of 2023. Where are we? And I value that you have a number of methods available to the public. That's good. But the member also asked about time frames, and so I want to ask about number of complaints closed. And I understand, and you gave the reasons why some of them would not close within the 6-month period. But I do think that you would be measuring your efficiency by the number of complaints closed. So can you give us the figures of complaints closed? And of course, my previous question about trends in increased complaints. Thank you.
Thank you, Member. Just to make a correction, Member, it was 1,028 initial reports. Now, initial reports are different from complaints, because an initial report, somebody comes in and says, and they think they have a complaint, but when you look at it, it doesn't fall within this criminal offense, serious police misconduct or police corruption that we could only investigate. So that's why. But for 2021 to 2022, it is 569 complaints. Okay. Now, for the period 2022 to 2023, it's 713 complaints. So it's gone up. And the complaints have gone up because I believe that the public have an easier access to the PCA through social media. And that is what is driven. We are a social media society now. The app, the website, the email, etc. It's easier. They don't have to walk into the PCA or in Trinidad or Tobago. They can send it via email and get to us. The figures, complaints closed. So between October 2024 and September 30th, 2022, I'm giving you the matters closed. We say we've sent to the DPP for criminal matters, or sent to the Commissioner of Police, or they were sent to both because the offence traversed both offences. So in 2014 to 2015, 42 matters were sent to the Commissioner of Police and 10 were sent to the DPP. In 2015, 28 matters were sent to the Commissioner of Police, 7 to the DPP. 2016 to 2017, 80 matters sent to the Commissioner of Police, 17 matters sent to the DPP. 2017 to 2018, 34 matters to the Commissioner of Police, 2 to the DPP. 2018 to 2019, 28 matters to the COP, 4 to the DPP. 2019 to 2020, 52 matters to the Commissioner of Police, 8 matters to the DPP. 2020 to 2021, 45 matters to the COP, 19 matters to the DPP. And in 2021 to 2022, 45 matters to the COP, 26 matters to the DPP. So for the period 2014 to 2022, 354 matters we referred to the Commissioner of Police for her to take action, and 93 matters for the same period were sent to the DPP when we recommended criminal action against the police officer.
So in terms of complaints closed, or what is meant by closing, how do you say, what is a closed complaint?
A closed complaint happens when, for example, a member of the public decides, well, I don't want to go through it anymore. Or sometimes the member of the public and the officer come to an agreement and say, listen, okay, well, let bygones be bygones. Sometimes they migrate, they go away, so we can't finish it. Sometimes there's no, after the investigation, there's no evidence to prove the offence has occurred. So we close the complaint. So that is how the complaints are closed.
Outstanding complaints at this time would number?
That number, for what period, member, do you want that outstanding?
Outstanding as at this time.
At this time, okay, 20.
Thank you.
Respectfully, Mr. Chairman, the honourable member had also asked about the trend. Yes. And if may I respectfully be allowed to respond to that. If I could just refer to our last financial report, which gives a good glimpse as to how we've progressed during the period that we're under review for today. It shows a continuous trend. That is to say, that up until the implementation of digital media, using media, up until that time, our complaints were either initiated by the authority or they were walk-ins or they were mailed in. Now we have seen, since we introduced the technology, a distinct trend in a drop in person and an increase in the utilization of all of the other form of media. So for example, for the reports in period 21 to 22, I'm just using something recent because it shows the entire trend. It's consistent. And I respectfully apologize for not referring to 22 to 23 because that has yet to be laid before Parliament. So I'll refer to what we can refer to. And it shows that 25% of our complainants come in person. If I had to break it down, our website, 23% will bring complaints using our website. Email, 16%, and citizens use, at least 11% will use the mobile app. So only 7% will hand deliver the complaints. Only 25% will walk in. So the public over the tenure of the PCA has embraced the use of modern technology to bring these complaints to us, and that has been the trend that they are embracing. That doesn't mean we're going to close the doors. We're going to still leave the doors open in Tobago and in Trinidad.
So would you say then, just to follow up, all your records are now digitalized?
I'm very happy you asked that question, member, because we have embarked upon what we call a RMU unit. We have a new unit called the RMU, this is a Records Management Unit, where all our records will be digitized. So from 2014 to present, we are upgrading and we are digitizing all our records. So everything is on a CD, and my IT manager always wants more servers to store the space. But so we are moving towards total digitization.
So I wanted to know now, you have more questions now?
Thank you. No, I will stop here, but I would assume that the integrity and quality control of these records would be secure.
Most definitely, member. We have a total proper policy set out and guidelines done in place. And my IT manager could talk to, if you wish, he can talk to the integrity of the records and the keeping of them.
Hi, good day. I'm Ricky Nanlal, IT manager. Yes, our records are part of the RMU. We have a quality assurance person and persons who actually scan. So we have devices that scan the information, and we have quality control, which verifies the information. The information is stored on encrypted servers, and we have also part of our disaster recovery stored locally. So we have systems in place and technology in place to protect the software and the data. And our software that we actually use is internal affairs software that guides each person through levels of access control, who can access the information. We also have audit control systems in place where we can see who accesses a file, who opens a file, who views a file from a computer, from an IP address, from a user. So it's very secure information it secures our information in a way that we know if anything is accessed or not. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Perhaps you should share that with TSTT. Maybe we want to borrow Mr. Nanlal for TSTT and other agencies.
Definitely not.
I want to turn over to Member Brown, and then we'll come back to Member John. Member Brown.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and good morning and welcome once again to those appearing before the committee. I really want to begin by acknowledging that from my perspective, from where I sit, the PC awareness in the public space of the PCA, its work and its role, has been increasing and improving over time, and to congratulate you for your role in that. And that awareness is very important with respect to understanding the trend with increased volume of complaints, etc. But my attention was struck by something the director said a short while ago in responding to another question and giving an example of complaints that do not amount to any specific action. And the comment was, as an example, where a complainant says, and I quote, "I do not want to go through with it anymore." And I got the impression from what the director said that results in the matter being terminated. And I became concerned by that because I could envision a matter in which an initial complaint is made. It is pointing to potential serious police misconduct or criminal activity on the part of a police officer. And then subsequently, the complainant changes his or her mind or is persuaded otherwise, or, the matter could be influenced in various ways. Is it that the complainant's view that they don't wish to proceed somehow influences in totality the PCA's view of whether it still has a role in the matter? So just assuage my concern in that regard, please.
Thank you for that question, member. Remember, we are doing an investigative file to either send to the DPP or to the Commissioner of Police. If the complainant doesn't give a statement or a further statement clarifying something, then there's no evidence to go before the DPP or the Commissioner of Police for any offense by the police officer. So therefore, we cannot legally pursue the matter. There's nothing we can legally do. We cannot, because our investigations are, it's balanced. It's not pro-police or it's against police. Our investigations are balanced, and we must go where the evidence takes us.
Okay, well, let me phrase it a little differently. If there's a matter in which evidence has been presented and the complainant has cooperated and followed up and subsequently indicates that they do not wish to pursue the matter, how does the PCA treat with that?
Well, again, we can only go as far as we can go, and if that evidence shows on a criminal offense, we can take it to the DPP or the Commissioner of Police, and then they will be the ones to have to get the person to change their mind and try to and testify. But we don't have that capability in the PCA as it stands now.
Okay, noted. Another question that I have for you is with respect to your degree of interaction and collaboration with, I use the term guardedly, similar bodies regionally and or internationally. Are you connected? Do you have, you being the PCA, interaction, collaboration, any fora, regionally or internationally, where you connect, benefit from, or learn from the experiences and expertise of those pursuing a similar role to the PCAs?
Yes, we do. If you, in 2016, the PCA held the first regional Caribbean Conference of Oversight Bodies in Trinidad, in the Hyatt, and we call it KFOL, where we came together from agencies from Guyana, Barbados, Trinidad, Jamaica, St. Vincent and the Grenadines was there, and we invited our international counterparts to take part in the conference. The conference ended up with an agreement, a draft agreement, where so far Trinidad, Barbados, and Jamaica have signed on, and Guyana have signed on to the agreement. I recently returned from NACOL, which is a North American Civilian Oversight of Law Enforcement Bodies, last week. That's why I have a bit of a cold, where it was held in Chicago, where it was very interesting and very well attended by over 600 different members took part, and where we learned from each other. And quite interestingly enough, Chicago has a similar type of civilian oversight as we do in Trinidad. The other U.S. bodies don't, because they are just, in the U.S. they have state, federal, county, and each police force has those, and so therefore they're very micro. It's a lot of them. So therefore they're not as standardized as we have in Trinidad and Jamaica. So we have given the PCA has already given a talk or discussion on how we do it and how they can improve their ways. So that was very important. We also go to Canada, called KFOL, and Canada has a law enforcement oversight conference that we also attend.
Okay, and I want to thank you for the response. I want to connect the question to the issue of the mobile app, which seems to be a great innovation. From what you've presented, the public is utilizing the app. I'm very pleased to hear all of that. But I also looked at some of the costs applied to the development and enhancement of the app, and I hear more more to come from what the director has said. I guess inevitable with technology, there has to be upgrades. So I saw in 2018, 117,500, 2019, 24,600, 2020, 2021, 127,000 with final payments for development. And the thinking is that certainly in other agencies, there is the facility where instead of reinventing the wheel or starting from scratch, partnerships can be identified external to Trinidad and Tobago where some of these modalities can be developed or upgraded in collaboration with external entities and possibly with reduced need for financial inputs here in Trinidad. So I'm just asking if that it has been considered or would be considered, of course, with due respect to security and all those other parameters.
Remember, we are an independent civilian oversight body, and so and my IT manager can correct me, but our platform that we've built is specific to the PCA, and we wouldn't really want any, and we have signed a document that we don't want them sharing their build-up on their platform, our platform and anybody else, because of course, we don't want anything untoward to happen to it. So therefore, the cost is there, and the cost is a reality, but we think the benefits outweigh the negativities of the cost.
Yes, but just to clarify, I don't think it is beyond us to benefit from technologies and applications from outside of Trinidad and Tobago whilst preserving the integrity of our information. There are examples across many agencies. So again, I couch this with full respect for your independent status.
No, remember, the people who built our app are local people. So the people who built the app are local. So we do not go out abroad to any assistance like that. It's just our app is built from local people, local vendors.
Okay. All right. Let's move on to another question, and I'm sorry, but I have a couple more, Chairman. And this is with respect to the PCA launches an investigation. The PCA launches a probe. And I'm seeing that very frequently in the media reporting, and I think it's a good thing because it gives some sense of assurance to members of the public that when there is apparent misconduct by the police, someone is looking and someone is responding, which is a big part of your role. Process. To what degree are these investigations conducted in-house, and is there reliance on service providers, other partners, the private sector in pursuing investigations? Or is it all up to the point of you handing over matters to the DPP or other entities? Is it all purely utilizing your own human resources? Do you recruit or pay for external services, external to the PCA services, as a part of your normal pursuit of matters that come to your attention?
For the big matters, I would say, the day of total policing, for example, we hired a consultant to assist us with that. But generally speaking, the day-to-day investigations are all done in-house by our own investigators, our own lawyers. So that is all done in-house. But the deputy can expand.
External help will only be needed for things that we can't do in-house. So I could start off by saying that. And I can give an example. For example, if we needed a plan or a site, a crime scene drawn up by a particular expert we're going to outsource that. That's just one example. The teams are divided into 6 teams. 3 are assigned to the director, 3 are assigned to myself. Each team has on it a CSI, crime scene expert investigator, who assists with the forensic aspect of the investigation. Each team also has assigned to it an attorney who will advise the investigators and the authority as we go on. So all of that is done in-house. What is also done outside of the house would be the reliance on the scientific analysis, which we can't do in-house. So we go to CIRU, we go to the Forensic Science Center, and we go to the other external agencies. So we have to rely on them for the scientific data and evidence to create our dossier, and that dossier is sent to the DPP. If the DPP is of the opinion that we need further evidence, that says viva voce, testimony from an eyewitness, we can see about that. If it's scientific in nature, we're going to have to go.
Okay. So with respect to those, as the director has indicated, external service providers that are recruited from time to time, depending on this scale or scope of the matter or investigation, by what process are those services utilized or procured? What is the procurement process that is deployed? Is it sole selective? And you gave one particular example with respect to the day of total policing. I'll have to use air quotes for that one. What process did you deploy, and who was the authorizing entity for such output?
That would have been the authority would have agreed on the person to be selected to assist in that investigation. What we do normally is we have a similar normal 3-quote policy where we put out tenders for 3 persons we think that are suitable, and the best fit we normally we accept.
Did that apply with respect to the investigation into the day of total policing?
I would have held discussions with certain consultants, and then the authority would have come to a decision on that.
Okay. Chair, just wrapping up a couple more. I was also struck by the war chest disclosure, and I'm sure those in the Ministry of Finance may. But I see some positives, Director, in that the positives are obvious, in that you are able to manage the resources provided to you, and while they may not be exceptional in quantum, that you are able to fulfill your mandate and have been, the PCA has been. But what is the size of this war chest? And I would appreciate a little more details, because at the beginning we had what would appear to be a contradiction, and you responded to some extent to it, where there's an appeal for additional resources to help you fulfill this expanding mandate and the increase in complaints and need for investigation. But at the same time, you're saving money to an extent which hopefully will be disclosed shortly. Is that a contradiction?
I don't think so, member. I don't think anybody who runs a household wants to go down to the last cent before they get paid again, because you never know what can happen during a month or months. So although we funding will more funding is required, but it's large sums, for example, to buy vehicles, technology. It's not small, a desk or a computer. So I'm talking about large capital equipment expenditure we are asking for. It's not small. So my finance manager can give you the
size of the war chest.
Good morning. Just to mention, the size of the unutilized funds that are held by the PCA as at September 30th, 2021 was in the amount of $4.4 million.
Might get a Prado or two out of that. Anyway, but thank you for the additional detail, Chair. I need to restrain myself sometimes. Very, very quickly, I would say my last question has to do with the recruitment process at the PCA. You did indicate in your responses that there's a 15% level of vacancies within the authority. And then in your further responses, it appeared that you are responsible for the recruitment process in its entirety. All your positions are contract positions. I didn't get clarity in terms of this 15%. At what level do these individuals fall? You gave examples of the investigation team. Is it that you have vacancies for senior investigators, or is it just at an admin or clerical level? Where do these vacancies lie? And what are the limiting factors? If you are responsible, you can't say it's the Service Commission or someone else. What are the limiting factors that might be affecting the authority's ability to fill these vacancies within the short term?
I would say on the we are civilian based, and some of the vacancies are investigators, and we are trying to move away from hiring retired police officers, ex-police officers, right? So, but you see, there's no UTT degree that gives a degree in investigations, for example, COSTAT. And this is what I've been asking for these UTT and COSTAT to offer investigative degrees to help Integrity Commission, the PCA, the Environmental Commission, these types of investigators, securities and exchange. You see, so there's no pool, there's not a big pool of civilian investigators except for ex-law enforcement, which is not ideal for the PCA. You see, so that is why, that is my conundrum, and I'm being frank with the committee, that I'm trying to move away from having a lot of ex-police officers there, and I'm more to a civilian-based body. And we have been training them in-house, the HR manager, whenever training comes up, for whatever training we have both overseas and in Trinidad, we try to send them, because we try to build our capacity of civilian investigators.
All right, very, very quickly, I want to ask a little bit about terms and conditions of the staffing of the PCA. How is that determined, and how is that? How should I put it? Is there attention being placed on improved terms and conditions over time and connected to morale and ability to fill positions? How are those determinations made?
Member, may my HR manager answer that question, please?
Hi, good morning, and thank you for the question. With regard to salaries and determining compensation packages, from time to time we may hire an external consultant to do comparable reviews for comparable positions within similar industries. What we also try to do is keep up to date with circulars provided by the personnel department that indicate whether there are upgrades or enhancements to the terms and conditions of positions in the public service that are comparable to those at the PCA, for example, attorneys.
Okay, and then, so to receive a complaint, you can use an email, you can use the app, etc., etc. I wanted to ask about prisoners, because they don't have access to a number of those modalities. How, if I may not use myself as an example, God forbid, if someone, a national, is, well, I don't even have to say a national, an individual finds themselves within the prison system, and they may have a complaint, how are they able to access the PCA to lodge and follow up? I'll attach a few supplementals to that. Are complainants given updates and feedback with respect to the progress of the processing or investigation, or is it really insulated? You make your complaint, we ask questions, you give responses, and then you may see something in the media later on. What is the degree of the feedback loop to complainants? So there are two, and then I'll attach another supplemental, the Spanish language proficiency, given the changing demographic of Trinidad and Tobago. Do you have strength in that department to assist in receiving complaints and communicating with those for whom English may not be a first language? Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for that question, member. The prisoners, they can write to the PCA, or if they have a lawyer, the lawyer can write on their behalf to the PCA.
There is no system of outreach or visits or any other access getting into the prison system, because I would suspect that therein may lie a significant body of potentially evidence or complaints within that subpopulation, particularly with respect to the conduct of police officers.
Well, we have had complaints come from the prison system, so they know the avenue that they can use.
Okay. Well maybe some of the supplemental responses.
The feedback, the complainant, once the complaint falls within remit, is given a letter from the PCA stating who the investigator is and how they can be contacted. Their cell number is given out, how they can be contacted. We also update complainants on the matter as it's ongoing. Okay. The Spanish speaking, we do have a person. We have more than one person on our list of interpreters that we can call and that have gone on location with our investigators to take a statement, or they have come to the PCA to take a statement in Spanish. So we have that. And the website is also in Spanish. Yeah. And the app? The website is in Spanish.
Very good. Chair, I will curtail myself at this point, reserving the right to intervene later.
Mr. Chairman, through you, can I just clarify a reference that was used, jargon? This is purely on jargon. When we use the word closed, when we look at the annual reports, it's closed, no further action. So in response to one of the issues raised by Member Brown, in addition to sending matters to the DPP and the COP, even when we don't have the evidence from the complainant, meaning we can't establish a prima facie case, in many circumstances, what we use is the legislation. So we're creatures of statute. So what we can do is we can advise the Commissioner of Police. We can advise several statutory bodies, and these are specifically set out for us. And under the Act, once it is appropriate to do so, we can disseminate the information. So that even when where we think it's appropriate to do so, that's your proviso. Once it's appropriate, we could disseminate it, so that we might not have the evidence of the complainant. We might have other pieces of evidence that we think it's imperative that those agencies have a look at. And I'll just give one, because I'm using up too much time, I'll just give one small example. In domestic violence matters, where we find that there is a trend and a reluctance, there are certain circumstances where we are very vociferous in the advice to the Commissioner of Police on the handling of those matters.
Chair, thank you very, very much for that final response and for all the responses.
Before I turn over the mic again to Member John for some further questions, we have a question from the member. We have two questions from the members of the public. Some of this information I think was presented earlier, but they may have missed it. So just for the information of the members of the public looking on, can you specify who are the auditors of the Police Complaints Authority's financial statements and whether the PCA has commenced its investigation of the 2022 financial statements?
Chairman, can my
Sure.
finance manager
Sure.
answer? Thank
Yes.
you.
Good day again. The auditors for the Police Complaints Authority are the Auditor General, and financial statements as at September 30th, 2022 has been audited and been laid in Parliament on September 8th, 2023.
Thank you. Turn over now to Member John.
Well, it's a good thing that you are up to date with your audits. That's refreshing. You alluded to, I think I did the director or the deputy alluded to, because this was a question I had when I saw your mission to pursue justice through independent civilian oversight of serious police misconduct and criminality. Because you said there are no police officers used in this. And it raised the question subsequently in my own mind, whether you were making use of retired police officers. And I think maybe that answer came, that
Yeah, once they have to be retired, they have to be out of the service. So they have to if they are in the service, they have to respectfully leave, and then we can consider them. But we have utilized, these are long-standing service. They have given human service to the country, and they are part of our team. And they have continued to be part of our team, but they must not be. They cannot be in part of the service.
how do you insulate them? There's a small country, a small pool of people, and they're former police officers. How do you do that? How do you satisfy yourself that these professionals are insulated?
In their contract, Vice Chairman, in their contract of employment, there's a conflict of interest clause. So if there is a conflict of interest and it's not disclosed to the authority, then we can take the appropriate action.
And you've never had to take appropriate action?
No, never.
Okay. The director also, I think the deputy director also spoke about the fact that you don't wait on the complaint sometimes to come to you. You spontaneously will take some kind of action. How is that done, and in what cases?
Well, again, Madam Vice Chairman, that's when the media is very important to the PCA, because many times we see of a police-involved shooting and we are not alerted to it, but the media alerts us to it, and then we take action because under the Act we can initiate an investigation.
So did you look at the Monday Express? Were you concerned at all by that headline?
Yeah. Yes,
So what do you do in a case like that? You pick up the phone and call the commissioner?
We initiate.
So,
Madam.
without saying anything, it's something you look at?
Definitely, yes.
Okay. And when you talk about the training for police officer, maybe you could prevail on the government, given that your accounts are up to date, to open the DB campus. Maybe you could contribute part of the four, because that facility, that was part of what it was supposed to do in terms of specialist training for the for law enforcement. And I also heard you speak of the in terms of your tenders, when you will go out for 3, I don't know, maybe it's specialists, and you will source 3 quotes, or as the case might be. Is it that the PCA is bounded by the Procurement Act?
We do not spend more than $1 million. We have never spent more than $1 million. So relying on the recent amendment to the legislation, we subscribe to what was passed in the recent amendment, and we abide by that.
So under $1 million?
3 quotes. Yeah, we use the 3 quotes.
But you don't break up tenders?
No.
Okay, fine. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. If I'm to proceed now based on some of the questions that my colleague had asked and some of the responses provided. The Police Complaints Authority has indicated a tremendous reliance on a lot of what you've said today on the technology, on embracing the technology and the use of your technology. I jokingly suggested that your IT manager might be kidnapped by TSCT for their purposes as well. And I commend that direction because of the fact that the world is going in that direction. So therefore, I wanted to pay a little bit more emphasis on your IT. In your written submission under the heading Intangible Assets, you indicated that a substantial amount of money, and my colleague raised it earlier, substantial amount of money was spent for the development and the enhancement of the PCA mobile app in 2018, 19, and 21. Correct? But that was your submission to us, so yes. My questions revolve around that. So, can you advise who is responsible for the management of that app? Is there a body, an individual, or a department that is responsible for the management of the PCA mobile app?
Mr. Chairman, can my IT manager?
Yes, sir.
Good day, Mr. Chair. Thank you for that question. The management of the app is done both by the internal IT department of the PCA and the vendor who assisted in implementation of the app. So we have support agreements in place and confidentiality agreements in place that we work together to streamline the app, resolve any issues, and give support for the mobile app.
So just to follow up on that, so there's periodic updating of the app, correct?
Yes, that is correct. The app is always updated. If you notice that the development of the app, then we have the enhancement and final payments in multiple years. The mobile phones actually upgrade their operating system periodically as to help with functionality, fixes on bugs, what IT call bugs, issues with the operating systems. So when that happens, Mr. Chair, we have to upgrade our app to mimic that, because both the iOS store and the Android Play Store have certain standards that is required for the app to be used and to be secured. So as the mobile phones upgrade and the operating systems upgrade, the PCA has to upgrade the mobile app as well.
Wonderful segue, sir. So here's where I wanted to go with that. Earlier today, was it today? On November 14th, so it was not today, on November 14th, 2023, attempts were made to access the app, and the entities attempted to download and test the PCA app. Entities that were attempting to do that were not able to do that, and they were being advised that the app is not available for your device because it's made for an older version of Android. You just indicated that there's a regular update because the Android systems change and update on a regular basis. So why is that happening now? Because this is not the only entity that is happening to, but you indicated, your deputy director indicated earlier, a tremendous amount of, that there were instances where people were using the app to make the complaints. But now we are seeing here that this month, on the 14th of this month, and somebody just attempted again, the app was not accessible because now I have I have an Android phone, and this is not able to access, and this is not an old phone. So it suggests that the app has not been updated, and therefore persons will not be able to access the app as good as it is to make the complaints that they would want to make.
Thank you very much for that clarity. So the app itself, with even older phones, you would automatically, some phones are set to automatically update the operating systems on the phone. So sometimes in the middle of the night, your phone will reboot for itself and install. One of the reasons why we did not upgrade the app immediately, because there were versions of both Android and iOS that came out that was not stable. So we went on the advice of the provider to hold on upgrading the app until the new release came out. So as of today, I am currently, up to this morning, we were testing the beta version to be released on the iOS and the Play Store. So that is why the app wasn't available at the time that you accessed it. Because if we did upgrade the app earlier, say about 3 to 4 months ago, the PC will have to engage the provider again to upgrade another version around this time, because only a few weeks ago, we have iOS 17 and Android 14 were updated, beta versions were updated. One of the concerns the provider had as well is that when these operation systems are released and updated, we have to give a substantial amount of time for testing. Because there are bugs. Sometimes with an update on the phone, sometimes the power button doesn't work. The functionality of certain apps don't work. In the interest of being more efficient and not spending twice, we had to hold until the updates were available to test, further testing.
I hear you, but I'm challenged now, because what you're describing is some issue that may occur with my phone.
Yeah.
What I'm describing is a problem with the app, the ability of the app to be downloaded onto my phone or onto a laptop. It does not seem to be a technologically, well, let me say it differently.
Right.
Two things. First thing is that I think there's a requirement, there's an understanding that if you have an app, you will continuously update.
Correct.
So I have some hesitation in accepting that we cannot update until we get certification of some sort or the other, because the rest of the world is updating.
Right.
But during this period, it means that persons are not able to access the app for the purpose for which the app was developed. We may have to wait 3 months or 4 months or 5 months for me to be able to use my phone to make a complaint. And this is the urgency, as my colleague likes to say, of the now. So I want to make a complaint. I try to download the app. The app tells me my phone too old or my phone not new enough,
right,
because the system that you've put in place says that to me.
Right.
But there's nothing that says that the app is going to be updated, or this is the reason why, therefore you should see. So if I am unable to download the app because of some concerns that you may have, and there may be other technological concerns, there may be other IT concerns, but if I'm unable to download the app, shouldn't there be, for lack of a better phrase, an option presented that these are the other ways through which I, who have been trying to use the phone, can make a complaint to the PCA? Shouldn't there be something on your website that says the app will be updated and so on, so on there? Should you notify me? Because basically, when people get to the point where they want to pick up the phone and make a complaint to the PCA, that's the level of frustration and desperation. And this is actually the way the world is going. It is the fastest way. It is also the way most people in Trinidad and Tobago communicate, as opposed to somebody trying to go on the website itself to make the complaint via the website. It's easier for an individual who's affected to grab the phone and make the complaint. So I'm concerned that that there was a delay within which the app would have been accessible to the public. I'm even more concerned that there was a failure by the PCA to advise the public that this delay exists, because clearly you are aware that the delay exists. But so some method should have been put in place to advise the public. So I'm not sure that there's a response that you want to provide.
Yes. Also, sure. Mr. Chair, just for clarity as well, that the website, our website, www.pca.org.tt, is part of the mobile app. So it's both integrated into one. The accessibility, if you go to...
I couldn't open it. I could not download the app, so I could not download the website.
So www.pca.org.tt, if you go to the website, you'll be prompted to install the version of the app called a Web Progressive app. So it's three medias that we have that you can install the app. there is the website. Now, if you go to the website, it will prompt you to install an app, which would be the version of the website app on your phone. The versions that are not compatible right now is for Android and iOS, the Play Store and the iOS Store as well, Apple Store. So I do take your concern, and I agree that we'll work on that to communicate to the public.
Thank you. While I'm on IT, a member of the public just sent to me as well a screenshot. PCA Complaints Authority is based on your website. Search publications, vacancies. There are no items to show,
Yeah.
which suggests that the PCA is not advertising. Now, it comes back to something that the director indicated earlier when he used words to the effect that if their vacancies needed to be filled, they would have been filled. In fact, that may have been the exact quotation. So we established that there were vacancies, but there are no vacancies advertised on your website. Why is that?
Mr. Chairman, we are waiting for the strat plan to be rolled out in 2024. So once we have an idea, once we are sure what vacancies do exist, we will then advertise the vacancies on the website.
No, so you're saying, because we went through quite a bit of conversation with regards to vacancies, but you are saying that although we have listed 11 vacancies, it may be that no vacancies exist and you are able to function completely effectively and efficiently with an advanced, increased number of complaints with your existing staff portfolio?
Again, as I said, currently we are existing and we are functioning, but once we have the strat plan formulated and done up, we would know exactly what are the key areas that we need to bolster and the key vacancies we need to fill.
I want to go back to your strat plan, 2015 to 2018. That strat plan was very detailed, extremely detailed, in a positive way, in a very positive way. You were able to identify in specific years where you wanted to be in terms of specific objectives. You listed a series of objectives: increased justice delivered, increased stakeholder understanding, increased police cooperation, increased public appreciation and confidence, etc. And you indicated in your strat plan what percentage improvement you expected to achieve between 2015 and 2018. It may be a bit of a challenge, but it may also be that we can take that in writing if possible. But can you indicate what level of success you've had in meeting your objectives, your strat plan targets, your specific targets between 2015 and 18? I acknowledge it may be a bit unfair to ask for 2018 to 23 because you don't have a strat plan, so therefore that's, my colleague had indicated before, that is an area of concern because it meant that you may not have been aiming at any specific targets. So let's deal with 15 to 18. Based on your strat plan, you had specified KPIs that you would use to measure where you wanted to go. How have you done in terms of achieving those strategic targets? I know it'll be a wide figure because I have one page with about 19 specific targets, and I'm sure that there were others. I just have the one page in front of me.
Mr. Chairman, just for clarification, we are looking at, and just so that we're looking at the same thing, I'm looking at plan version 2. Is that the area, just a general ballpark as to the area that you are looking at?
All right, so what I've been provided with was a screenshot, PCA strategic objectives and targets, plus A1:H19.
I really just want to make sure that I'm following you, but
it's
just
listed as the source is listed as PCA strategic plan 2016 to 18.
well, I really hope you're looking at the same thing because the version that we submitted.
Allow me.
Right.
Oh.
Thank you. It's being passed to me. The page is being passed to me.
Which one is looking at?
He's looking at that page there.
This one here?
Yeah. So should we go through each one line by line?
That may be a bit tedious. I just want to get an idea
Yeah.
of whether you were able to achieve some of them. Some of these are very, very, very critical, actually.
Yes.
Strengthen legal competencies, strengthen performance culture, strengthen investigation competencies, strengthen investigation competencies, those improve facilities, improve technology availability, those ones,
Yeah.
under people and organization, those I consider to be extremely important. So therefore, and you had indicated vast strides to be made specifically on those. So if you could focus just on those, that
Right.
would fall under people and organizations.
So I'm looking at increased justice delivered, and that's the first heading I'm looking at.
No, he's looking at here. That's it.
Yes,
Okay, so are we going to go through each?
Yes. Well,
Excellent.
Well, once we have the answer, because what I was going to also suggest is if we don't have the answer immediately, if we could be given the opportunity to provide
Well,
that in writing.
In the interest of time, I want to suggest that you provide it in writing, but I want to
Right.
focus on the third segment of that, the people and organization. You had indicated some, for example, improved facilities, you expected to go to 100% to increase the number of quality of officers and facilities. I'm assuming that you've gotten to that.
Yes.
But strengthen legal competencies and investigation.
So
Those
can I
you are
start with
expecting
legal
first.
then, Mr.
Yes,
Chairman?
please.
Yes, right.
Yes.
So in terms of the legal competencies, from 2015 to 2021, which is the period under review, we have staffed and increased the complement in the legal department. There is room for at least two vacancies to be filled, and those are the junior level of the organization and one at a senior legal officer. So we do have a head of legal and at least 6 attorneys that are assigned, as I mentioned before, per each team. So that is how that department supports or helps the investigative process. During that period of time as well, we established the office of the advocate attorney. That's a legal department. What I'm not mentioning is that some of our investigators also have law degrees. So in terms of satisfying that goal that we had increased the competency there, that is how we addressed that strategic goal that was set out in 2015. In terms of the Mr. Chairman had mentioned the commitment we had made to the investigative department. Am I on track? Right. In relation to that, we also increased the number of investigators during that period of time, and we had submitted that number as a suggestion as to what that number had been increased by, but we will provide the exact number in writing. That increase in the investigative department included people who were trained as CSI experts, so that when there is a murder, when there is a shooting, we have people who are trained to assess that crime scene or at least audit what is being presented to us on the TTPS side. So yes, we still have vacancies in those two departments, but in terms of what we set out to achieve in terms of bolstering it, we did that. And we also added a department called the Office of the Advocate Attorney. That office has a specific role. At the very least, that office helps us to, I want to use the word charm in certain circumstances, coerce the external bodies to provide us with what we need. He's an advocate, so I say that very mildly. That's what he does. He's there to nudge, he's there to push for us to get it. His office is also designed in such a way that when these dossiers are sent, because we're building legal capacity, when these dossiers are sent to the Office of the DPP, Commissioner of Police, and other external agencies, those dossiers have to be able to pass the test, if I could say that bluntly. So that is what that office also helps us do. So I hope I've answered your question in relation to those two departments, and I respectfully ask for the opportunity to supply the other answers. Just one last thing, though, respectfully, Mr. Chairman. Yes, from 2018, we've been very transparent about that. From 2018 come forward, we haven't had our strat plan. But it didn't mean that we didn't set goals. We did set goals, and it's because we had a backlog, and we focused a lot of energy on clearing up that backlog. And I have to say I'm grateful to the committee because they've asked us to address that in terms of providing the numbers. And we will have the opportunity. We're grateful to take that opportunity and give you that number in writing, Because if you ask us what was the goal and what we were doing, we were clearing up that backlog. We also set a clear goal to get technology, to get on board with technology. And we do take the point, and I have to say we're extremely grateful for bringing to our attention a way in which the issue with the app can be resolved. And I have to say to the public, there are other ways in which you can make, so we take the point, there are clear other ways in which you can, and I'm not going to belabor the point, I've already referred to the figures. We're kind of saddened to hear that there may be any criticism. We're happy for the criticism, the customer is always right, but we are really proud of our app. We want an award for the app. And so that's why we feel a little, not depressed, but we feel a little heartbroken that the app would get any kind of criticism, fair criticism, when we're happy, customers always right. But we did win an award, and we're very proud of our app, and if I'm just allowed to put that on record to our team. Yeah.
I share your concern because I think today's world uses apps on a regular basis to access. So it is. I'm grateful that your IT manager is able to target an early resolution. But going forward, there will be a similar occurrence on a regular basis as Android systems change. So let's not have that happen again.
Yeah.
That's correct, Mr. Chairman. Yep. I agree with you 100%.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, sorry, just one more. Just to add to the Deputy's comment about the Advocate Attorney, how that office has worked in relation to the amendments that were passed in Parliament, and I must thank Parliament for the amendments to our Act, in that we are now able to be an interested party in coroner's inquests, where it's very important because coroner's inquests, are where persons have died by unnatural causes, and many times the police do not give the coroner a proper brief to go to call witnesses. But because every police shooting in Trinidad and Tobago, we investigate, and therefore, once we investigate that, we have a file, and then we are able to give that file to the coroner, so then she's able to see and call witnesses. So that has benefited greatly. And even matters that we have not investigated, we are still asked to sit in on, because we can assist the coroner in coming to get the witnesses or coming to a conclusion. Thank you.
Thank you. Member Brown?
Thank you, Chair. There must be some considerable risk in the work that the authority does. And so I want to ask a little bit about the issue of security. And in asking my question, I fully understand that there must be some consideration with respect to maintaining security whilst addressing concerns about transparency. So my specific question is, do you have a security department or division, or do you rely upon the provision of external support that you pay for with respect to security for the authority and its personnel, its senior staff, etc.? How is that taken care of?
As far as I could answer, member, the building, both in Trinidad and Tobago, is secured by external parties that we have had contracts with them for many years. Only I, from the authority, have security.
Okay. I want to ask about Tobago, because we haven't spoken much about Tobago. You have an office there. How is that set up? You clearly don't have a deputy director in Tobago. What's the, or at least not yet, what is the level of staffing? Who runs that office? And what is the nexus between work being done in Tobago and in Trinidad? Do you have to visit there regularly? Is there some program of visits? How does it work functionally between the Tobago office and that in Port of Spain?
So I could say that the Tobago office is fully functional. How it operates is that we have a complaints officer in Tobago full-time. Part of our case management is every 2 weeks, or when the need arises, an investigator goes over to Tobago where there's accommodation for them, and they do the investigation for a week. So for at least twice for the month, for a week, 2 weeks in the month, we have an investigator across in Tobago. There is an attorney assigned to those investigators who are based in Trinidad, who work alongside the investigator, with the investigator to investigate matters.
A question from the public with respect to, is there any collaboration between the PCA and the Professional Standards Bureau?
There is collaboration. It's on an informal basis, of course, because we are an independent body, but they of course get information and reports that we would need from them, and we write them and we receive them. So there is collaboration.
Thank you. Ma'am?
Sorry, on the point of collaboration, you had said that much of your work in solving these complaints or dealing with the complaints that come before you are done internally, but you also have to rely on external stakeholders, and they then can be seen to be risks to your mandate in terms of solving complaints. How do you mitigate such a risk against these types of risks in terms of delays that these external stakeholders would cause in solving the complaints and so on? How do you mitigate? How do you solve these relationships or improve these relationships with your external stakeholders towards the mandate of the PCA?
When I was first appointed in 2014, there was a reluctance to cooperate with the PCA. But however, over time, the 9 years that I've been there, that cooperation has increased tremendously. I used to meet with the former Commissioner of Police several times to try to get our procedures in place. Now, a phone call will work, because they understand now the work of the PCA and that what we do. So therefore, it has come down. When I've met with the director of the Forensics Science Center. He understands what we're doing. I've met with persons in the Ministry of Health for medical records. So he understands what we're doing, and they understand the timely fashion that we need those documents for the investigations. So I would say over time, for the 9 years that I have been the director, the walls have come down tremendously, and there's a lot more cooperation and understanding of what the PCA does. That is an investigative body trying to find the truth of the matter.
Well, that's good to know, that there's a greater ease in communication between all of these necessary stakeholders, and that's good. Just curious, do you get a lot of domestic violence complaints? Not necessarily against a policeman, or let's say my case is not being heard by the police, etc. Go and solve your matter with your husband and so on, something like that. But do you get a lot of those cases? Just curious to know.
I'm not too sure if I hope this device is on. What I was about to say is we get two types of complaints. The answer is yes. The exact figure, I'll respectfully ask for the opportunity to provide the committee with that exact figure in writing. But the complaints fall into these two categories. Police officers that do commit domestic violence against loved ones, someone they're having a relationship with, relatives, children. And we get complaints related to inaction by the TTPS when they get complaints about domestic violence from the citizens.
If I may, yeah. In your written submissions, on the basis of risk management and internal auditing. You indicated that one of your major debtors was Risk Management Services Limited. Can you advise what's the value of that outstanding debt, and what is the nature of the relationship or the transaction between PCA and this Risk Management Services Limited?
Thank you for your question, Chairman. Risk Management Services, they are debtors in terms of they control our insurance policies, as well as our group health plan. So debtors in that regard. We pay them in advance for health plan payments.
That's fine. Thank you very much. One more from me. Again, under the same heading, according to your submission, and I want to read one line, the principal risks associated with the pursuit of the PCA's mandate from financial year 2015 to financial year 2021 include but are not limited to. So these are the principal risks. Two of the things that you identified there concern me, because you have just said the judiciary as a principal risk and the Forensic Science Center as a principal risk. Next to those, you would have late notification of fatal shootings, etc. So you would have identified a specific negative that constitutes a risk to your inquiry, to your ability to conduct your investigations and your auditing. But you have not specified anything with regards to judiciary. You just left it as a bulk, and the Forensic Science Center. So it's curious. It seems to be that from the first reading of it, from the basic interpretation of the language, that the judiciary constitutes a risk, and the Forensic Science Center constitutes a risk, and therefore a liability, for lack of a better words, in you conducting your investigations. You want to clear up some of that?
So as the director said, our lines of communication have improved over the years, but some of the delays that we may incur come about because we're awaiting documents, awaiting transcripts, awaiting records from certain agencies. And those are the agencies that we've listed out there. In relation to the two that, Mr. Chairman, that you've directed our attention to, there are times when we initiate an investigation or we are asked to look at situations that were determined by a court of law, like malicious damage, malicious prosecution, matters like those. And what we look to before we make any decision or any recommendation is the transcript of the evidence. So what we would ask for would be, for example, that audio recording or the paper record. Now that will take some time. So we have improved over the years, but we cannot mislead anyone to suggest that that is an automatic deliverable. It is not necessarily automatic. We also pull the information and the endorsements when we're looking at the conduct of police officers when they are required to attend court. And they don't, for example, they abstain from coming to court for a variety of reasons. Some of those records are vintage. They're in a vault somewhere, and we have to pull those records. Those records take a long time. Our director alluded to the fact that we have a good line of communication with the Forensic Science Center. Our communication is good, but the reports take an inordinate amount of time to get to us. And we are dealing with fatal shootings, things that require certificates of analysis and so. So that takes time.
I understand. Thank you very much. Another question from a member of the public. Has the PCA submitted a PSIP project in fiscal 2024 for the upgrade of the AIM program?
Thank you for that question, Mr. Chair, but could you repeat that question so I can get some clarity, please?
I can read it out exactly as I have it here. From the member of the public, has the PCA submitted a PSIP project in fiscal 2024 for the upgrade of the AIM program?
The answer is no.
All right, so we just started the conversation now. So what exactly is this AIM program? Just for my clarification, because we would not have got it's just a question that came in. What is exactly the AIM program? Clearly, the member of the public who is asking it is asking for a particular reason. So you would, in the explanation as to what it is, I'm assuming that we'll figure out what the query is, and then you could probably advise us why it has not happened.
Sure. We call it AIM program, is an administrative investigation management tool, is a case management software that the PCA used and employed into the PCA since 2013. So this system is used to document a report or initial report, and it passes it to different departments for processing. So it will move from the complaints department to the legal department, to the investigation department, then to the authority, and vice versa. It's an access control system. It's a very secure system. That's why I would limit it to limit the information that I share, meaning that this is broadcast to the public.
Correct. So the concern then is that, like the app, it has to be upgraded on a continuous basis, which is what the member of the public's clear concern is. So since it has not been considered, is it that we are not proposing, let me ask a question differently. Is there an ill? In law, it's referred to as a mischief. But is there a mischief that can be created in the absence of this upgrade?
Right. When we speak about upgrade, we speak about different factors of an upgrade. We have support. The app has been running since 2013, where we, on an annual basis, there's annual support, right? And during this annual support, part of this annual support agreement, there are small upgrades, small changes, but I would not consider it as a major overhaul of the system. That in respect to changing now the application itself or upgrading to a point that we cannot recognize the app using a different provider. That's why we don't go back out for a tender if we continuously use the same app. So I hope that gives clarity on what the current system that we're using. So it's only if we are changing out the app, we go out for that upgrade that we're talking about.
That's fine.
Okay.
I'm good with that. Another question that I have listed in my schedule. The PCA, in response to the questions from the Secretariat, indicated that it does not have a whistleblowing policy. That clearly, because you've been in operation for a while, and whistleblowing has become a factor in the public conversations for quite a while as well. But the fact that you're dealing with such a critical type of investigation, the work that the PCA does is such a critical requirement for the eventual confidence that comes not just to PCA but to the police service as well. Can you advise why you have decided not to have a whistleblowing policy, or if it is one of those things that will come when the strat plan is implemented?
Mr. Chairman, the whistleblowing policy will come. I'm hoping once I know that there's a white paper, or there's it was a bill, I think, was in Parliament, and that they had gone out for discussion. And we were hoping that once that bill became an act or law, we would then understand the whistleblowing policies of what the government has set down in the statute, and then we would conform our whistleblowing policy to that act. So we are more or less waiting for Parliament to get the whistleblowing act passed.
So with the greatest respect, and I agree that we need to have the overall guidance, but there are several, in fact, multiple organizations that have come before the Public Accounts Committee before, who are in a similar position, in the sense that they are entities that operate in the expenditure of government funds, that interact with members of the public, etc., that have implemented whistleblowing policies already, because of the nature of the job that you do, because of each individual in your organization, all 62 or 50, whichever the figure is, I can't remember the figure now, 62, yes. All 62 employees are critical to the overall final product that you provide. And therefore, there's a requirement for a level of absolute confidence in the PCA and in the final report that you do. The whistleblowing policy is supposed to ensure that every possible stopgap is addressed to ensure that we don't have concerns and queries going forward, so that people who have concerns or who have expressed, let me say it differently. Your organization accepts whistleblowing from members of the public who will come and explain what their circumstances are and how they feel that police have behaved in particular ways. But it's kind of odd that you don't have one for yourselves.
Mr. Chairman, that will be addressed in the strat plan coming up.
Well done. My colleagues, do you all have any other questions for this?
A quick final question, and I would start by saying to those gathered, from my perspective, the PCA has been doing excellent work in very difficult circumstances. It is possible that not everyone may share that view in a democracy. And my question is, if there is a member of the public who has a complaint about the PCA itself, where can they be best advised to go? If they have a concern about the performance or response of the PCA in a particular circumstance, what should they do?
Well, I believe that they can go to the Office of the Ombudsman to make a complaint. Failing that, they can go to the Member of Parliament. The authorities appointed by the President on the advice of the Prime Minister and the Leader of the Opposition, and they can then channel their complaints through those two offices, Office of the Prime Minister and Office of the Leader of the Opposition, I think.
I have one more. I don't want to leave the ministry officials unscathed. Yes. I indicated at my start that I would come back to you, ma'am. I'm coming back to you specifically with regards to the funding. I know Mr. West is convinced that he has sufficient funding, but I'm also aware that he has also expressed concerns for the need for more funding for what is to come, which we know if you have 1,000 more police officers, there will be 1,000 more subjects for inquiry. So hopefully there will not be a similar amount of complaints, but therefore there will clearly be need for additional support, staff and resources. What mechanism has been put in place by the ministry to ensure that requests for funding, support funding from the public accounts, sorry, not from public accounts, from the Police Complaints Authority in fiscal 2024 going forward can be addressed?
Okay, so Chair, first I would like to recommend that what we can do based on all the challenges and the concerns that have been raised here today, for fiscal year 2024, maybe we could liaise with the PCR and provide proper justification, and we could approach the budget division and have additional funding for mid-year review, and we could approach Parliament and have those funds issued to the PCA.
Well said, thank you very much. And just to touch the Auditor General's Department as well. In your conduct of your investigations on the Public Police Complaints Authority, during your process, have you found consistency in any issues that you would want to raise at this point with regards to their accounting, etc.?
Well, we have come across some instances of minor internal control issues, but nothing consistent or that would say there's a particular problem in any particular area.
I note that we had a concern, I don't know if it was raised, with regards to the internal audit function and whether or not there was a... It was not raised? Right. So we had a concern with regards to whether or not the specific risk issues I had mentioned in your in your response to us, when you had indicated that there were specific risk issues, and I spoke just now about the about the judiciary and the Forensic Science Center. But there were risk issues, and our concern is that you did not have a risk management policy, and you had no, well, we knew that you did not have an accounting officer per se, because you were an independent organization. But in terms of the risk, the internal audit function, if you don't have an internal audit function, you don't have a whistleblowing policy, how exactly does the PCA mitigate against the risks that you are identified from? Is it just by conversation, communication, reaching out, etc.?
The risks that we have identified, we don't, for the record, we don't have the risk management policy, which is something that we've put onto the record, but we have an informal arrangement and a series of tools that we use instead. So every fortnight, there is something we casually call the heads department. That's a casual reference to it, but in terms of the entire operations of the organization, from everything, that is canvassed and addressed, and all issues are dealt with at that interval every fortnight. It's minuted. Those minutes are audited by the Auditor General's office, so they get to see the entire process. So if there's a complaint, if there's anything that needs to come to our attention, or even the attention of an external body, that is minuted and put into our fortnightly report. That's one way. The second way in which we've attempted to deal with it, or another tool, is that our case management system is rigorous and it's tiered. It's tiered in terms of who people are supposed to report to, and who is going to be, I want to say, checking the other one or fact-checking the other one. So that's a second way, and I want to say it's vigorous. I want to use that word vigorous. So that's the second way in which we try to deal with our core operations. And then we rely, in terms of risk, we also rely on two things: the legal mechanisms that we put into place in terms of the terms and conditions and their contractual obligations, and we have disciplinary processes that are clearly set out and utilized when need be. We are grateful that to date we are not littered with any heavy docket for any disciplinary matters coming out of those tools that we've used. We do have an official health and safety committee because we do have a responsibility. We have OSH requirements and OSH responsibilities. So for risk management, that is something that our organization definitely has.
Sorry, thank you very much. I want to use this opportunity, since we have no more questions from my colleagues here, to thank the representatives of the PCA, the AGLA, and the Auditor General's Department for your participation in today's event. It has been very informative, at least from our perspective, and I'm sure from members of the public as well. I also want to use the opportunity to thank members of the listening and viewing audience for tuning in. Clearly, as you could have told, there's some interests in the members of the public determining a little bit more about what your organization does. On that basis, I want to hope that we make a little bit more headway with regards to the app. And I also want to appeal, I'm not sure how you can do it, but to find maybe more creative ways to get the message across. Your role and function is critical to the confidence that people have, not just from the Police Complaints Authority, but in the police service itself. And as a result of that, I think you need to spend a little bit more emphasis in reaching out to members of the public who may not necessarily go on a website, who may not necessarily have access to the app itself, but to let it be known outside there in public a little bit more effectively, that you have a role that is substantial and that they can access to make complaints if they feel disenfranchised in some form or fashion, and that there's expeditious addressing of concerns. Yep. I want to thank you all very, very much. It's been a pleasure. I now invite you to excuse yourself as we go forward, and thank you very much. Go safe. Thank you all very much again.